I've got a question for you. How would you react if you were asked to attend a meeting by a potential new partner and you walk into that meeting to find that person lying butt naked on a massage table getting a massage? How would you react? Well, find out how I reacted and what I did in this next episode called Finding the Right Partners: The Good, the Bad, the Ugly. Stay tuned. Hey everyone, welcome back to Ashes to Assets Lessons in the Lounge. I'm Vince, and welcome to this next episode where I'll be talking about how to find the right partner, the good, the bad, and the ugly about partnerships. So, your business needs a partnership, or so you think your business needs a partnership. Perhaps you've been approached by someone who really likes what you're doing and wants to be your partner. Or who knows what, maybe there's certain ways that you've come across a opportunity where you do want to bring a partner in. You might have a new division of the company that you want to launch, something like that. You know, I've had my fair share of partners, and I'm very fortunate to say that I've had a lot more good partners than I've had bad partners. But unfortunately, I've had a few. Let me talk about what happened to me, and I'd like to kind of get your thoughts on what would you do if this situation happened to you. I was asked by a person that wanted to do business with me, and as a matter of fact, that wanted to partner with me early on in my business development, to come to a meeting at his home at 8 p.m. on one particular night. So, expecting that this is and was going to be a business meeting, I put on a suit and tie. I was expecting that this was going to be a proper meeting, but in a gentleman's home. So I showed up at the proper hour, and I was led in to the living room when all of a sudden my head just about blew up. The person that I was supposed to meet with was lying butt naked on a massage table with a towel over his rear end getting a massage. And the masseuse was there giving him a massage. So I walked in and I went, whoa, oh my God. I'm sorry. I'm too early. My head was swimming, as you can probably imagine. And I was told, no, go ahead, sit down, sit down. Let's talk. Let's talk. So I sat down on this chair with my head just swimming like crazy, saying, what the heck are you doing here? What the heck is going on? What's this all about? You can imagine some of the thoughts going through your head if this happened to you. So I remember leaving this meeting and going home and speaking to my wife. And she said, how did the meeting go? And I told her, and she had the same reaction that I did. Needless to say, I never did business with this person. Now, what was this person trying to do? Was this person trying to do a power play? Was this person trying to show off about how cool they are, how important they are, how successful they are? Well, whatever it was, it completely turned me off. And I hope that things like that would turn you off. You know, the partner that shows up in that beautiful brand new sports car, chances are it could be 100% leased. You know, the partner that has the big, beautiful home, and everyone deserves a big, beautiful home, that could be fully mortgaged to the hilt. Be careful about who you're doing business with. Take your time as you would with a marriage, with any personal relationship. The partnership has to be built on honesty, trust, good communication, and most importantly, there has to be a complementary set of skills, something that you don't have. If you don't have that skill set, and it's so important that you need to bring in the person, step number one, take a step back and ask yourself, can that be accomplished with, say, hiring an employee? Or do I really need to bring in a partner? So, what's the difference between an employee and a partner? Well, it's actually massive. Number one is that as an employee, you have an employer-employee relationship where you can set up all the different terms and conditions that you want in that relationship. You can have an early termination clause within the first 6 months if that relationship doesn't work out. You would have that person on salary. You can structure it with benefits or bonuses if you wish, but you have more control that if you want to terminate an employee within the proper guidelines, yes, it may cost you some money to do that. But when you look at a partnership agreement, let's talk about that for a moment. With a partnership agreement, Now you're not talking about an employee-employer relationship. You're talking about a partnership relationship. Quite different. So now you're going to have a lawyer, keyword lawyer, not ChatGPT, draft up shareholders agreements if it's an incorporated company that you're going to start up, a partnership agreement if it's going to be a partnership company. And in those agreements, you need to fully explain clearly what are the objectives for that new person, what are the milestones, what are the milestones that that person has to reach, what is considered good behavior, and what is considered bad behavior, and how does bad behavior get dealt with. And that usually comes to the termination. Now, there could be a involuntary termination where if that partnership is sneaky, is maybe withholding uh, money or hiding funds, well, that would usually be termination for cause, and you have to make sure that you can prove that cause. Or there could be termination without cause, where you want to allow both parties to get out of a partnership, and you have to make sure that you properly spell that out. And with a partnership, in some ways, a partnership has to have better communication than an employee-employer relationship. I think both of them do. Don't get me wrong, please. But for example, with a partnership, you want to be sharing financial data with your partners. If there is a ownership in the company or in the division, you'll want to be able to share financial data with that individual. You don't necessarily have to do that with an employee. The other thing that you want to think about is whether it's an employee or a partnership, what are you going to do about things like non-compete, non-solicitation, non-deal? Let's talk about that for a moment. So you've both worked on developing this new company, this new division. It could be an employee, it could be a partner. What happens when that relationship is terminated for whatever reason? Can that individual go now and compete against you? If you don't have a non-compete agreement or a clause, non-compete clause in your agreements, chances are, yes, that they can. Now, what about soliciting your clients? You could be in a service business or a type of business where if that individual was to approach your clients and steal them away, you need to have a non-solicitation agreement to be able to deal with that. Now, there's a little trick, an old trick that usually made non-solicitation agreements, quite frankly, almost useless. And this is what it was. Picture that a partner of yours has left, and they have signed a non-solicitation agreement. Well, what they've done is they've gone to a lawyer, and the lawyer, a smart lawyer, will say, hey, guess what? Here's what you can do. When you approach those clients, have them sign a little letter to you that basically says, I was not solicited by the ex-partner. I called the ex-partner myself. So in other words, I solicited the ex-partner. I was not called by the ex-partner. So all of a sudden, the non-solicitation could be up in the air and it could be completely useless. Or you could be fighting this and spending a heck of a lot of legal fees to basically get somewhere or get nowhere. There's a little clause that's called a no deal or a non-deal, which basically says that not only can you not solicit clients, but you cannot deal with those clients, regardless of how they came to you, whether they spoke to you first or you spoke to them first. And if I can just reiterate, if I haven't already, please engage the services of a competent business lawyer, not a lawyer that just deals with, say, real estate transactions, someone who is a business lawyer, understands business deals. They specialize in businesses. You will spend a little bit more, but believe me, it'll be worth it. What I have seen happen many, many times is that either someone has put together their own homegrown, handmade agreement, or nowadays, you can use ChatGPT to develop a shareholders agreement or a partnership agreement. The problem with that is that ChatGPT or whatever you come up with is going to be a very generic agreement that's not going to cover all the nuances that you are going to have with this particular relationship. And what I have seen happen time and time again is that the money that you save by being cheap at the beginning, you blow that big time by spending a heck of a lot of money on legal fees after that relation becomes terminated. So, what makes a good partner? That is the simple thing. That's the simple answer. First of all, partnerships, just like any personal relationship, takes time before you can fully trust an individual, before you know that that person is going to work as hard, if not harder, than you will, and that that person will be completely honest and forthcoming and a good communicator that will share the objectives that you have in growing the business. Whenever you can, ask for references, ask for other people that they've worked with in the past, and do your background checks. If there has been a string of other partnerships or relationships that have gone bad, that should be a sign. And now let me explain too what I consider to be a partnership and what I don't consider to be a partnership. Let's talk about the easy one first. What isn't a partnership? Well, let's say as an example, you have two accountants that want to work together, or two lawyers, something like that, two people like that want to work together. And they want to have their own offices, they want to have their own support staff, and they're going to have their own clients. I really don't call that a partnership per se. What I call that is more of a marriage of convenience, where they really just want to share things like office expenses and maybe support staff expenses. That's not really a partnership. A true partnership is when you and another individual are working towards the same goals, same clients, same profit and loss statements, same objectives. So remember, partnerships are like a marriage. They should be long-term in nature. If there's anything that makes you uncomfortable while you're discussing a partnership, back away, regroup, think about what is making you uncomfortable. And here's the thing that you also want to ask yourself is that if I'm feeling a little bit uncomfortable or under pressure, or quite frankly, a little queasy about a certain clause that this potential partner is asking, this is the start of your business relationship. What's the future going to look like? Usually what I've seen in partners is that they almost agree on everything. They're easy to get along with. They want to be successful. They want to make money. They want to share the money that they make with other partners. That is hugely important and critical. If you have any butterflies in your stomach about an individual, don't do it. Please don't do it. What am I smoking tonight? Well, tonight I am smoking a My Father La Grande Offerta, the Great Offer. This is made by a company called My Father by the Pepin family. It's a 6-inch 52 gauge cigar, medium to full-bodied, really a good full-bodied cigar. Nicaraguan filler, a Nicaraguan binder, and a Ecuadorian and Habano wrapper. The taste is really nice. I mean, it's not overpowering. It does. You can taste some sort of kind of a nutty type of flavor and so on. It's actually a very, very good smoke. And you could buy these in the US for probably $11. They're not an expensive smoke. In Canada, the price would be roughly about $25 because of our crazy tobacco duties. You know what? It's just a nice smoke. It'll probably take you about an hour to smoke it. It burns nice and even, and it's a really enjoyable cigar. It's hard to go wrong with any of the My Father cigars. There's a good assortment of them. I would encourage you to try more, and I do have more in my humidor that I will be trying. Perhaps I can share one particular cigar smoker idea with you, and something that I hope that you'll find interest in. About 20 years ago, I went to Staples and I bought myself a little notebook. What I wanted to do was I wanted to make sure that when I smoked a cigar that I really liked, I wanted to make note of it in this notebook so I could buy more. If I had a cigar that I really did not like, I also wanted to make a note of that so I could make sure that I would never buy that cigar again. This has been going for about 20 years. whenever I'm thinking of buying a couple of boxes or whatever, I I reference this, and it's not a sophisticated scoring system. I'll usually rank it out of 10. I'll say things like, is it a mild smoke? Is it a mild to medium? Was there a lot of smoke? Did I have to constantly relight it? And then the thing, would I buy it again? Or I would say nothing special, don't buy it. So anyway, this is something that you might want to think about that can really help you to enjoy the cigars that you like and avoid the ones that you don't. And here's another little thing. It's basically a gauge ring for cigars that if you wanted to find out, well, what's the gauge of this cigar, you can basically just put it in. And I know that this is a 52 gauge. If I wanted to measure, what I did was I drew a little ruler right here, and I could measure the cigar. So I could say, hey, this cigar is a 6-inch by 52 gauge. And the reason why that's important is that because, for example, even with this particular My Father La Grande Oferta line, there are different shapes, different sizes. So you want to make sure if you really enjoyed the one that is a 6-inch 52 gauge, that's the one you want to buy again. I hope you enjoyed today's talk about finding the right partner, the good, the bad, and the ugly of partnerships. If you did like this session, please subscribe. Please give me a thumbs up. And until next time, think long term. Thank you.